Hello, NASCAR fans. Welcome to this week's edition of our live NASCAR Hangout on Pit Row. I'm Charlie Turner, joined by my friend Dan Beaver down in Texas. Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. Things are good. We're waiting to get hooked up with Steve Ronkowitz. Hopefully that'll happen here. Excuse me, shortly. In the meantime, we're going to talk a little bit about this past race weekend at Chicagoland. Terrific race. First race to the chase for the Sprint Cup Championship. You know, in the last three times I've said race to the. Speaking of Ronkowitz, there he is. Hey, Steve-O, we're live. So whenever you're ready, just jump in. So we've been talking a little bit about the race in Chicago. I keep wanting to, for some reason, Winston Cup has been popping into my head for the last couple of weeks. I start to say chase to the it hasn't been Winston Cup for 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was something else in between. Nextel Cup.
Nextel Cup. I don't know where Winston Cup. Maybe it's because I saw Fred Lorenzen this weekend, and that made me think of Winston Cup or something like that. I don't know. Anyway,
I think it's just a matter of old age, is what actually it is.
It could be that too. But thanks for that, Steve. That's Steve Ronkowitz there, joining us from lovely Sylvania, Ohio. I presume today.
Yes, I am. I am here.
Beautiful day out there. So I hope you all get to watch that race. I thought it was one of the best, certainly one of the best mile-and-a-half track races I've seen in a long time. Great finish, exciting finish, lots of passing, lots of moves made. Brad Keselowski won the race, but that didn't become an obvious result until maybe the last 15 laps of the race. It looked for a long time like it was either going to be Kevin Harvick or maybe Kyle Larson, who was relentlessly working his way up through the field, or Jeff Gordon, who ran a lot of laps up front. What did you guys all think of that race?
I thought it was a great race. The thing that I kept waiting for Kyle Larson to win that race. It looked like the world the stars were lining up. Everything was going to be Kyle Larson's day, and then it just didn't happen. But Brad Keselowski, like I predicted, was going to win that race. Right, Dan?
I'll double check, but I think so. Yeah.
Did you really?
Yes. Steve had Keselowski.
Wow.
I had Harvick.
You had him too, didn't you?
I had Harvick.
Oh, you had Harvick. Didn't somebody else take Keselowski? Didn't Beth take Keselowski too?
Beth had Logano, so we all did pretty good except for Charlie.
That's it. Yeah.
There's a news flash.
I had to get that in there. Who did I have? Almirola?
I believe you. I think you picked Mike Bliss, but Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, Johnson.
Yeah, well, that's schlub. I should have known better.
See, that's what happens.
Yeah, it looked to me. It sure looked to me the last I don't know 75 laps like it was Larson. Nobody was going to stop Larson from going all the way up to the field and winning that race, especially when he was racing head-to-head with Harvick and Gordon. I mean, they just couldn't handle him. He was running all over the racetrack, pounding fenders with those guys. They raced each other clean, as everybody, they like to say. I thought it was just great. And then on that last run, when they got passed by Keselowski, they kind of got together. It looked like maybe they slammed doors, got spread apart, and Keselowski just bolted through that middle. And that's one of the gutsiest or stupidest moves I've seen in a long time. I haven't decided which.
Well, because it worked, it was gutsy.
When it propels you to the lead, yeah, it's a gutsy move. When it wrecks the whole field, it's stupid.
Well, it could have been either of those.
Well, he made the move that everybody was hoping that somebody would make to make this thing interesting. Like you said, Charlie, how many times have we watched mile-and-a-half races where they've just been the most yawner, other than Dan Beaver? How many people like mile-and-a-half races that are yawners? Dan is the only one.
Wait a minute. They're similarly configured mile-and-a-half tracks. Get it right.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, other than Dan Beaver, who likes those races? Very few people, because they usually are yawners. They usually have nothing to put your hat on, nothing to claim it as being any kind of interest whatsoever. This race was interesting, maybe not from the green flag to the checkered, but more so than not, at least.
Well, we had 18 lead changes, 7 drivers, so there was a lot going on. We got some long green flag segments. We got some long green flag. We got some drivers keeping the lead for a little while, but for the most part, yeah. And I just think there are no ugly races. So
just like there are no ugly children.
There's no ugly children, and there's no ugly women after 1 a.m.
Okay,
Dan's living in
we're going to leave that where it sits. I would tell you that right now.
Dan's living in that panacea of Central Texas where everything is beautiful.
Hey, I'm home. Yeah, there's very little.
The sun does beat down pretty hard out there.
So speaking of Eric Almirola, is his chase done without a win in the next 2 races?
Yeah. His I think the best he could do is.
He's like 25 points out of the cutoff or something.
Well, and his average finish would be. With second place finishes, best he could do is an average of like 16th, and it's going to take better than an average of 16th to get to the next round, I think, among the 16 guys. And he's not going to finish 16th in both those races and have everybody else mess up either. So,
but there's nothing saying that crew can't take some kind of Hail Mary and they can't win one of these next 2 races, though. I mean, they've had enough times this year to where they've been able to be close to the front. They make a lucky guess on fuel or something. You know.
And New Hampshire is one of those tracks that often has a long green flag segment at the end and kind of devolves into a fuel mileage race. So what they need to be doing is working on the fuel mileage all week.
Hey, we're joined by Beth Ann, too. So everybody that beat me at the Fantasy Picks this week, it gets to be here and brag. Welcome, Heisler.
Hey.
You missed it where they were dissing on me a little while ago. I'm the only one that didn't get the top 4 finished in our picks. So imagine that. So what did you think? You were there taking pictures of that race this Sunday. What did you think of that? We've been talking about the race at Chicagoland, the myafibstory400.com. No, myafibstory.com 400.
Well, I enjoyed being there and taking pictures and
getting pelted with bits of rubber.
Pelted with bits of rubber and asphalt. So
the weather was about perfect. It was a great finish. I know you don't get a very good perspective of what actually is going on during the race, but you did get some insight into what the drivers were like before the race during the introductions and stuff. I know you were commenting to me about who seemed to be loose and who didn't, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like I said before, Casey Kane, he didn't seem really into it, and actually Kyle Busch was rather. He wasn't really, there.
Didn't have the swagger. What I noticed, and we talked about it a little bit Sunday, he didn't have his normal swagger,
Yeah, he seemed, anxious, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see if that plays out. So Almirola's out, we figure, right? And Keselowski's in. Anybody else? I mean, neither of the Roush guys that are chasers did anything. Allmendinger didn't do anything. Looks to me like those might be the 4 least favorites to not advance at this point, unless one of them can pull out a win somewhere.
Well, for that 20-something finish for Allmendinger, Biffle, and Edwards, they really need to offset that now with at least a 10th place finish in one of the next 2 races, and then a solid top 15 in the other. Edwards could do it. It's been a while since he had back-to-back top 10 in the last few weeks, but he's had more 20-something finishes since Watkins Glen than he has top 10s. He could do it. Biffle could do it. Allmendinger's not going to score a top 10 in the next 2 weeks. And so I think you can count him out. You can't count him out mathematically, obviously, but I think realistically you can count him out. And Biffle, I think you probably can count him out too right now. He's got to get a top 10 and a low teens finish to get that magic number, which is probably about 14th, 15th, and an average finish of 14th or 15th. I don't think he's going to get there.
One place I could see Biffle having a top 10 would be Dover, maybe. That's been a good racetrack for him historically. If he can resurrect some confidence there and just maybe hit on some setups, might be able to pull off a top 10 at Dover. I don't like his chances this week at New Hampshire for a top 10. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and at Dover, his 3-year average finish is 19.3. So he's had some bad runs there recently. The next two, he's got a better shot based on his last 3-year average finish at New Hampshire than he does Dover.
Well, how do you feel now? We know we're one race into this 10-race chase, all right, but we're really a third of the way through the first round.
First third of the third.
Yeah, first round. Would you call it? So, and we're talking about who's eliminated and who's not already. So, did NASCAR? It looks to me like they stumbled on a good formula here, at least for conversation, for interest. I don't know if the casual fan who just knows that NASCAR people race around in circles and turn left are going to gain anything by this chase formula, but I think fans might be gaining something, with 10 races left in the season that they wouldn't have had if we were just in the old style pre-chase points mode. What do you think?
I think one of the things that's a story that's going to play out is whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and we don't know that, is the whole Eric Almirola story. He has to win now. So does that make for a more interesting story? What are they going to do to ensure a win in the next 2 races? They cannot just sit back on their laurels and try and get in by points. So now all of a sudden you have one guy who has to win a race. So in my mind, while you look at him and say, yeah, he's probably eliminated, I think it's another story that says, okay, this is a guy who could be eliminated, but for the next 2 weeks we have to watch and see what they do, how they attack these 2 racetracks to try and get a win, because that's the only way that they can get in. So from that standpoint, I think NASCAR really did kind of stumble on something that's a win-win deal, because even though he's, quote, out, now you've got a better story out of it.
Yeah, because we wouldn't talk about him again until we wouldn't talk about it again, period. Talked about Earnhardt last year because he was Earnhardt, and you got to talk about him. But his blown engine in this race put him out of it, and he never overcame it. So at least he does have that chance. And from a base standpoint, there are storylines for 2/3 of the races. You've got the round kickoff, and you got the elimination round, and that's something obvious for the media to write about and report on. So getting those stories lined up each week, a little bit easier this year than they were in the past, and to some degree that kind of frees you up to find some other interesting stories out there too, because you're not just struggling to find anything to write about.
Yeah, I think I think I think they hit on something here. We'll have to see. We'll get another race down and see what the discussions are after this week. See if this will cause the 43 team to try something out of the box, or the Roush guys to see if they panic at this point, which I don't know if they will or not. They might.
And hidden in there is they may have been trying it already. We don't know exactly what went wrong with the engine.
Right.
We don't know what gambles they took to get the engine strong enough to get him to the lead. So they may have already been doing it. And if they do it 3 times in a row, it might work one time.
Well, we'll know one thing for sure: if they show up with a Hendrick Chevrolet in the truck, that they're trying something.
Yeah.
Well, we've killed a little bit better than half the half hour that we generally try to keep these hangouts to. I want to real quickly get to our Shell read for our sponsors, Shell Gasolines. But I put a question out there today to try to generate some comments. It did generate some pretty interesting comments already. And the question was, I'll paraphrase it, was who will be the first to win a Cup championship? Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, a Dylan, or Casey Kane. Right. So that's my question I put out there. Now that doesn't have to be the comment that you leave that could win you the $50 Shell gift card. But here's the leader in the clubhouse as far as I'm concerned, as far as comments go. This is from Terry Height. And I don't know if Terry's a man or a woman, so I apologize for that, Terry. But here's the here's the comment. Kane can't. Dylan's a dud. Elliott's no chariot. So that leaves Kyle with a smile and a championship cup. Okay, so there you go. Right now, that's the leader in the clubhouse as far as I'm concerned. So get your comments in, and you have a shot at what Steve's going to tell you about right now.
Well, yeah, you submit your Shell Saver Card comment of the day, and you can take home that $50 Shell gift card. Plus, anytime Joey Logano, driver of that 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford Fusion, wins a race in 2014, Shell Saver card holders save 22 cents per gallon on any grade of Shell nitrogen-enriched gasoline or Shell diesel just by using that Saver card on the Wednesday or Wednesday if you prefer after the race. Valid up to 25 gallons. Go to shell.us/Wednesday for the details. And Chase Elliott now has a chance to garner number 9 if they want to buy it off of Richard Petty Motorsports. Or his future cup.
Okay, tell me more. You know something that you aren't sharing with us.
Well, it was announced yesterday that that Marcus Ambrose is going back to Australia. He's going to drive for Penske. So that leaves someone going to the, quote, number 9 car for Richard Petty Motorsports. And seeing as they have no real affliction for the number 9, I would think that for the right price it could be sold.
So who do you think would buy it?
Well, I would think Hendrick, yeah.
And my prediction is
that's
that
probably already being worked out, I think.
Unless they can find a way to get Chase Elliott and steal him from the Hendrick camp, like has been done in reverse so many times. Get Chase Elliott to drive that number 9 car next year with DeWalt Stanley behind him. Go, Chase.
Well, here's the deal. The Ford family is going to have a lot of extra money next year because they're not going to be able to sign Donkey Kong Sue to a contract, so they can use some of that money to sign.
Who's Donkey Kong Sue?
You don't follow football much, do you know?
No, not to that degree, obviously.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers quarterback was interviewed. They played the Lions last Sunday, and before the game, he was interviewed and asked about the Detroit defense and referred to Ndamukong Suh as Donkey Kong Sue, which created some minor controversy in the Detroit locker room. So anyway.
I see. Well,
my NFL segue didn't work. Thanks.
Well, boy, that locker room fodder there didn't work for the Lions either. So
no, it did not. We don't need to talk about that anymore. Okay, so of those 4 or 5 names that I threw out there in that comment, before we're going to go into fantasy here real quick, but those 4 or 5 names I threw out there, which is your first guy to win, or any of them, to win a Cup championship?
Larson's got a running start, so I think Larson gets one before those other guys.
I would say that with a caveat, I'd go with Chase Elliott just because of equipment that he will most likely be in.
Beth, who do you like?
I'm going with Larson.
Larson. See, all of you guys, Dan's like, Dan's got Larson have a head start. Beth takes Larson because she thinks he's pretty. Steve says Chase Elliott because he's got this Elliott crush that he's had for 30 years. Nobody mentions the guy who's already in good equipment, who was the hottest young driver in the circuit for the last 3 or 4 years, arguably, Casey Kane. Nobody gives Casey Kane a shot? If anybody's got a head start, Casey Kane's got a shot.
Casey Kane's going to be driving for Furniture Row here in a couple of years. So,
Does Martin Truex know this?
No, he may be resurrecting the number 90.
90? Oh, no.
For Junie Donlevy.
The late Junie Donlevy. Okay, well, enough of that. We'll talk about that, but leave your comment up on our Facebook page or the onpitrow.com blog or the Bench Racing with Steve and Charlie blog, any of those places, or on the Yahoo page, YouTube page. We don't have a Yahoo page. I don't know. We get too many pages and shows, and this is making me crazy. So let's talk about fantasy racing at New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Nice thing about New Hampshire is it's one of those tracks where the first race really is very good about helping to predict the second race. In the last 3 years, let's see if I can get my numbers up here so I say them exactly right. In 2012, 7 drivers earned 2 top 10s at New Hampshire in their 2 races, and 13 drivers swept the top 15. That's the most we've seen in both of those categories in the last 3 or 4 years. Last year, 6 drivers swept the top 10, and in 2010, 5 drivers doubled down. The only time there's been an outlier is 2011. So what you saw this summer in July is almost certainly going to be a close match to what you see now this week, with this caveat that there were a bunch of drivers who tried to stretch their fuel mileage at the end and messed up, and Logano's crash. It's kind of ironic that Jeff Gordon was running second when he ran out of gas under caution at the very end. Ends up somewhere down in the 20s, I believe. Kevin Harvick then inherited second position, ran out of gas on the restart. Joey Logano was running second when he got run over by Morgan Shepherd. So 3 drivers with bad finishes all had second place capable cars, or at least top 5 capable cars. That's going to skew the numbers somewhat this year, because those drivers should have finished in the top 10. They should have been part of this sweep of the top 10 that we're expecting. Brad Keselowski won the race, and the fact that he's won the last 2 races, I think, certainly bodes well for his chances this week. It's incredibly difficult to get 3 victories in a row, but I wouldn't count him out. And he's certainly good for another top 5, because he and Logano were so dominant in the Camping World RB Sales 301 that it's just hard to imagine that they're going to fall that far. Then again, didn't really expect Logano to struggle last week, and he did. Up until the time that he finally got the handling right in the last segment, the last change, and picking up a little debris certainly helped him a little bit. It was the difference between a 6th, 7th place finish probably and a 4th place finish, getting that nose sealed off. And him going across the finish line, that had to have a lot of fantasy players just kind of nervous right into that very end. That plus Denny Hamlin's comments that he was blowing up all day had a few people nervous. So going into this week, I think you're looking at anybody that ran well during the summer, and if you're looking for a dark horse, then look for the drivers that ran okay, may have been in the 6th to 10th place range. You might look at Tony Stewart as being a dark horse because he finished 7th here in the summer, or Clint Boyer because he finished 8th, 6th here in the summer. Those are drivers that Ricky Stenhouse had a 9th place finish here, and some of those were artificial because we got rid of those 3 really strong drivers at the very front. But now that they've got those top 10s, they know how to get back there, and I think they make. If you need to call your own Hail Mary this week, those are drivers that probably would be part of that Hail Mary call. In Group A, I think Jeff Gordon's got to be the top seed. He's finished 2nd in the last 2 races. He had a 2nd place capable car at New Hampshire, and I think it's probably his week to win or to finish the top 5 again. He doesn't seem to be capable of winning at will like Keselowski does, but he doesn't need to either. If he keeps those top 5s going, those top 10s going, he's going to advance to the next round of the playoffs, and that's what's foremost in their mind. By that same token, I think that's making Jimmy Johnson bad value. Somewhat, he's lost his. He seems like he's lost some of his enthusiasm on the track, some of the enthusiasm in the pits. They're just not getting it done like they should. They don't look as dominant as they once did. But this could be by design. He knows how to win championships. And prior to this year, he'd get into this stage by testing a lot during the final regular season races. Finishing just outside the top 10, it's not going to hurt him so long as he makes it to the next round. And this team could just be pacing themselves. If they are, that makes them a bad value in Group A because we want Johnson to be capable of winning. We don't want him to be that 5th or 6th most highest points earner in the Yahoo game in order to take him. So we just don't know what the new chase format's going to do entirely. And I think it's all in all, I think it's making Johnson a very questionable pick overall. Harvick, I've got ranked second in Group A. To do that, he's got to stay out of trouble. Last week's pit stop swap didn't work out for him the way they wanted it to, but he had his problem early enough in the race that he overcame and had a good finish. If he gets that same problem late in the race, that's when it's over for him. They leave loose lug nuts in the second half of the race instead of first half, and he can't finish in the top 5. But you don't know that's going to happen. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Keselowski, I think, is a favorite to win. I think it'll probably come down to a Keselowski, Logano, Gordon show again this week. So if you're handicapping by the numbers down in Group B, those are your Logano and Keselowski are the guys that you're going to be the most excited about. Ryan Newman, though, continues to be he's got a long string of top 15s on the short flat tracks and at New Hampshire. Denny Hamlin, I called him out at Richmond and said he's a great pick because he's going to finish in the top 10, and they just never got good. Excuse me, I just swallowed a mosquito. And none of the Joe Gibbs guys ever got going. Since they swept the top 10 last week, I think Hamlin's a good bet again, but I'm less of a Hamlin fan here at New Hampshire than I was at Richmond. This is his 3rd best track in terms of career average finishes. Richmond was his 4th best track in terms of career average finishes, and that didn't keep him out of the 20s. But we're at that stage where you got to take some risks, so Hamlin's a good risk. And then, as I mentioned, I think Tony Stewart is might be a good gamble. He's been so erratic, so low affect in the last since coming back that he may not be ready to run at the front yet. And you might not want to put him on your roster until you know that he is. But by the numbers, he should be there. McMurray is another one of those drivers that I think belongs somewhere in the top half of the list. With the exception of a crash-induced 42nd at Martinsville this spring, when he got taken out by Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's finished 16th or better in every race he started on a short flat track this year. So he may not get a top 10, but he probably will finish in the low teens, and that makes him a good allocation management play. Drop down to Group C, and Larson, Dillon are the 2 top drivers. They're going to be that way for a while. Danica Patrick last week, though, was on the majority of the most rosters in Group C as people are realizing that they're going to have to take someone else. And Patrick's had some strong runs back on in Phoenix on another short 1 mile flat track. She deserves it. She deserves to be there, but she's going to get outrun by the 2 others. And you have to decide by how much. I think she's a good person to put there, and Justin Allgaier is my last pick in Group C. High teens, low 20s, but it's consistent, and you know what you're going to get from him. If you think Danica's going to get run over, or she's going to run into her boyfriend again, then Allgaier might be your man.
Well, before we get to our own picks here, any chance that either of the Roush guys do anything this week? When I say either of the Roush guys, I mean either of the Roush guys that's not Ricky Stenhouse. I know you already talked about Stenhouse, but the 2 that are chasing, Biffle or Carl Edwards, I would think of the 2, maybe Carl would be the better pick here, but are either one of them worth any consideration at all?
Carl's been consistent. He entered Richmond with 3 consecutive top 15s, top on short flat tracks, top 10s at Phoenix and Richmond, 13th at Martinsville, and a 13th at New Hampshire. So, yeah, he should finish in the top 15, but he was as disappointing at Richmond as Hamlin was, and doesn't have the overall record to elevate him to that place. Biffle has also been consistent, but not quite as strong. He's finished between 15th and 19th in the 5 short flat track races we've had so far, and was 15th at New Hampshire. So, given how badly he's run in the last 2 weeks, I think he's probably going to finish either in the high teens or low 20s, and that doesn't make him a good pick in Group B.
Okay, well, I was the sailor of the pickle boat last week, so I'm going to go first. I think Keselowski's teammate Joey Logano gets his win and gets his free pass to the next round at New Hampshire. Steve, who you got?
Well, I'm going outside the chase and taking the 14. Tony Stewart to rebound.
Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart to rebound.
Beth Ann, who you got?
I'm going with Joey Logano.
Joey Logano. So for the second week in a row, she takes the same driver as somebody else. I think I like her. I like our chances. I like my chances since she picked him. Dan, who you got? Who's the Beaver curse going on this week?
Let's see. If it's a curse, let's say Harvick. I'm going with Gordon. I think he's been the bridesmaid long enough. He'll be the bride this week.
All right, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and 2 calls out for our sponsor driver, Joey Logano. We'll see how it works out this coming week at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Should be fun. We'll sign out this week. This has been our On Pit Row live NASCAR hangout here. I want to thank my co-panelists, Dan Beaver over in Texas. Dan, thanks. Follow Dan on Twitter at Fantasy Race. Read his stuff at yahoosports.com and rotoworld.com. Steve Ronkowitz, listen to him at WSYL.TV or .radio or .fm. What is it? WSYL.fm.
Pretty much any of those.
In lovely Sylvania, Ohio. You can catch all his great work out there. Beth Ann, you need a copy done? You need a picture taken? Check out Beth Ann. And I'm me, Charlie. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us. Have fun at the races.
You've just been on Pit Row, and now you're up to speed with the best information about the world of NASCAR. Come back next week and join the pit crew, Steve and Charlie, and go on Pit Row. On Pit Row is a presentation of Bench Racing Productions.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go on Pit Row, boys.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
On Pit Row. On Pit Row.